Ghana for, thank you for staying with us on the AM show. This morning, I am upset. And as I share with you my blunt thoughts, I'm going to be talking about corruption. I've titled my piece today, Walking, Running, Swimming, and Drowning in Corruption, the sad situation of Ghana. Recently, Ghana for, there's been a lot of talk about Atta Mills and his legacy. All good, even considering the hypocrisy of some who now extol a man they denigrated every which way he turned. But while we fight over what was done, for a fondly remembered deceased president who himself wouldn't hurt a fly, corruption is whacking us black and blue. It's beating us silly. It actually gave me a good laugh recently when all sorts of people came out of the shadows to take on lawyer Martin Kpebu for calling out President Akufo-Addo for not tackling corruption. But wait, has the president, after the very loud gong of that NDA bribery was played, heard or not heard about it? Is Mr. President still uninformed? Oh, I get it. The fight against corruption is on pause. For now, we shall use the wait and see principle, not the Anas principle, which was touted, dangled tantalizingly before voters in 2016 when then candidate Akufo-Addo wanted power. Do you see why I have such a deep mistrust for our politicians, NDC and NPP? They tell you one thing, secure your vote, and do things that make you ask yourself, did I vote for leaders or for demons? Ghana for, forget about the party politics. Let's set aside just for a moment our political lenses. When you look at how President Akufo-Addo has tackled corruption, that is, if I can even use the word tackled at all, would you say he has done anything really to stamp it out? We can talk about the PPA boss. He's chilling just fine. We can talk about Charles Besue. He's doing just fine. Look what happened to Daniel Yao-Domenevo. It was just disgraceful. Now, we have a special prosecutor who is also struggling. I honestly do not know whether he doesn't regret taking up the position now. I also do not know whether he will last there till the next election. Only time will tell. But you see, you set up an office to fight corruption, fail to constitute its board without which crucial decisions can be made or cannot be made. For 10 months, you starve it of funds, and human resource, and you say you've done something. It's just a charade, an empty show of a fight that is nothing more than shadow boxing. Fire, Ghana for, is on the mountain. There's trouble everywhere. Somebody please tell the vice president that we are suffering. Media people too are suffering. Apart from the harsh economic times, the censorship is drowning us. You say this, the next minute you're getting threats and calls. Ating. After repealing the criminal libel law, we have subtly snuck it into the fabric of our society so that even when you dare speak the truth, you have to keep watching over your shoulders. What crime have we committed? Why do my colleagues, the likes of Manasseh, Captain Smart, Caleb, Zoe, and others feel unsafe? Curiously, if these had happened during someone else's tenure, we would have screamed bloody blue murder. Fancy all this happening right under the nose of a lawyer known for human rights activism. Sigh. I guess feathers don't necessarily show you what bird you are getting anymore. If this is what human rights activism or an activist serves us to the point where Ahmed Hussein Swale was gunned down in cold blood for exposing corruption, which indicted the presidency itself, then I dare say we are lost. And when we sink 30 places on the Reporters Without Borders list, well, very conveniently, it's just because they changed their metrics. Then indeed, we have a lot to grapple with. You see, I have a whole lot on my mind that I want to reflect upon this morning. Perception and reality aren't the same, right? Well, now we have a reality check. Public, accountability is taking a new turn on that latest report that we have. 5 billion Ghana cedis in there, according to that latest report put together by Shraj. That is even more than what we're expecting from the e-levy, what it will rake in for us. All of that was lost to bribery and corruption in the last year alone. But hey, that might just be a warped reality, just as what we are now going from the IMF is a loan, not aid. I mean, are these people listening to themselves? Can they look themselves in the mirror? How do they manage to sleep at night, I ask? You know what? If this is what it takes to be a politician in this country, then though I am an astute student of politics, I would pass. You lie through your teeth without shame. You cannot speak the truth, even to save your life, and yet you even see them in church wearing white, hosting white handkerchiefs. Whom exactly are they deceiving? That's the question. Devils clad perpetually in white and smiling and feigning innocence, yet as dangerous as Egyptian asps, the typical brood of vipers, just as Jesus speaks of. Hypocrisy, sycophancy, selfishness, greed, and everything else that is evil have engulfed this country in a thick cloud, even while we construct a religious monstrosity of a cathedral. I suppose we forget that God lives really and truly in human hearts, not in buildings erected by human hands. Look, God works on good leaders. He tells these leaders, do righteousness and it will go well with you and your people. If it were simply about building places of worship for God, we'd be the most prosperous nation on earth. My checks reveal we have many more churches per square inch than most countries in the world. Yet what has our religiosity got us? We are as corrupt as ever. We steal from the mouths of the poor. We rant about how others have eaten the meat clean off the bones of the national purse. And when we are given the opportunity, what do? We not only eat the meat, but we break the bones as well and suck the marrow out of it. You who do this are a big disgrace, and building a cathedral will never cover up such wickedness. The servant may do whatever he pleases while the master is away, but when the master returns, then the servant will know who's really boss. Like we say, every day for thief man, one day for master. The day is coming when people will vomit all they have stolen from the living, the dead, and even the yet unborn. They will pay, I tell you, every last one of them. They will. It may seem to them for now that they will get away with everything they are doing, that no one sees them. But the eyes that see everything, those of the omniscient God, they do see, and their day of reckoning will surely come, even if now it appears to tarry. So let them create, loot, and share. So will curses be distributed among them and their families and their generations for the injustice they do their fellow men, women, and children. You divert funds for a contract just so you can get that latest V8 vehicle, while people have to pay for fuel just to get what is meant to be free emergency care in an ambulance. How does that make you feel? God richly bless you. May your descendants be richly blessed for your wickedness. And if you do not get my sarcasm, then you must be as daft as hell. When I look at the sheer arrogance in display in many corridors of power, I come to understand more and more why it was said that when the gods wish to destroy a man, they first make him crazy, allowing him to think he is something superhuman, far more powerful than he really is. And then they squish him into insignificance and oblivion like an ant trampled underfoot. That day is coming for many of these lying tongues and looting brigades. That day, sure as day and night, is fast coming. They will pay through their noses. They who have sowed the storm of evil against God's people will reap the whirlwind of his righteous anger. They can take me as a messenger or brand me as a naysayer, but time will show whether I speak the truth or whether they, rather, are justified in what they do. Time may tick slowly, second by second, but in that same way have centuries and millennia passed. Time catches up with everybody. Our leaders should never forget that. They should look at Sri Lanka and know the power of the people. Look, I'm not asking for barbarism. At the end of today's segment, I'll put something on the slides and then you will see. I'm just saying we are not radical enough, tasking our leaders to realize that we are dead serious about their corruption. And those who claim to want to fight it are actually doing so without what we want to see. We must make our leaders come to the realization, the very lucid realization, that they are simply failing and that if we want better, it is their responsibility to deliver that, not to loot what belongs to us. We should no longer pamper them with the title, honorable, honorable, when we, the masses, live dishonorably and die in penury. What kind of senseless leadership is that? What is the use of our leaders if they cannot or will not do what is expected of leaders? I'm going to digress a bit, but some things simply do not make any sense. Some 6 million Ghanaians, for example, my own mother included, through no fault of theirs, have no Ghana card. And we're talking of, cutting them off, blocking their accounts because they do not have SIM cards that have been registered. My almost 70-year-old mother yesterday had to queue at LWAC to go through even more hassle at the LWAC Stadium, all because of a card which she still hasn't got anyway. Why must everything be so down twisted and pleasant and corrupt in this country for the ordinary Ghanaian? Yet while we endure all of this nonsense, some people grow fat on our taxpayers' money and dare to steal from us as well by taking undue advantage of the positions we made possible for them to occupy. We all heard the DCOP of the police recently saying that, we are not the most corrupt institution. In fact, blame the ordinary citizens who offer bribes to the police. It is enticement, I agree. But does anyone compel the police to take bribes that are offered? If all police officers did the right thing and arrested, charged, and processed for court anyone trying to corrupt them, as it is against the law, do you think people would still dare to bribe them, or that the likelihood of same would be so high? The Ghana Police Service, while having some fine, incorruptible elements, has generally painted itself black with the paintbrush of corruption. The service did that all by itself. If it will reverse the trend, it must do so all by itself and not blame citizens for offering them bribes, nor blame institutions conducting surveys. When this rhetoric of corruption is itself as old as Adam. Like I said, not all of them are frolicking on the bed of corruption, but there are many ways through which the Ghana Police Service demonstrates it cannot be counted on and that it is indeed corrupt. Recently, I had an experience. I reported it to the Police Professional Standards Bureau, together with a colleague of mine. Guess what happened? Till today, as I speak to you, I followed up on that matter, called, nothing. They told me they needed to check the CCTV cameras and a whole lot of other things. You want to protect your own, but you expect that ordinary citizens should be responsible. How is that? You do this and expect that the perception when it comes to, the police service would be positive. You try at every turn to protect your own and fail to punish them when it is right to do so. But if it were an ordinary citizen, you would squeeze water out of stone. All of these breed impunity and fly in the face of the honesty you claim to possess as an institution. Public perception, mind you, is powerful. What you do, the people notice. Do what is right, and you will not have to shout on the rooftops that you are this or that. The people themselves will attest to it, period. When the late John Evans Atta Mills, one of my favorite leaders, Ghanaian leaders in this Fourth Republic, owing to his integrity and approach to leadership, lived among us and passed on in the line of duty, which one of us would have contested his penchant and pursuit of honesty, hard work, modesty, peacefulness, and general humanity? Because we watched and saw through his actions and ways what he stood for. Can we say same of our men and women in blue, the Ghana Police Service? Can we say same for our presidency today, our legislature, our judicial system? How can we even look ourselves in the faces when surveys reveal our three major arms of government are all in cahoots, rolling in the deep, so to speak, when it comes to their lack of integrity and general corruption? Whether perceived or real, well, this is what the latest Shroud report, for me, is so positive in the fight against graft, because for once we have a factual, not perceived report on goings-on concerning corruption, the spate of it, and just how much is lost to the state on the back of all of this. I shudder when I contemplate the president's recent response, or lack of it, to the NDA issue, and claims that because the OSP is on it, it's okay. Let me ask you, if the president had been in opposition still and attempting to be president, would he countenance a sitting president from the other side acting in like manner? So, is the president going by his words to use the ANAS principle of investigative journalism to expose and punish graft? You decide. Recently, I had an interaction with Dr. Mahama of the Vice President office. He told me when I asked him about whether the president was using the ANAS principle that, because of entrapment and all of that, basically, in simple terms, no. That is what he told me. No. Dr. Mahama suggests the presidency is no longer going by the ANAS principle. So I ask, has the fight against corruption been thrown to the dogs then? Ghana, just pause for me. Ghana loses $3 billion to corruption every year, no less. According to the African Union estimates, Africa loses $140 billion. How long shall we take this? I am speaking like this morning, boiling, so passionate, because it makes absolutely no sense. And while we lose all these sums of money, we wallow in underdevelopment, and undevelopment. We're going to the IMF for 1.5 billion. If we stemmed the tide of corruption, how much more could we save and save our economy? Think about that. As I wrap, I want you to contemplate a few things with me. I'll go through this very quickly, so stay with me. According to the latest Afrobarometer survey on the level of corruption, just look at what is happening here. 2014, and when you see the black line, it refers to the expectation that corruption has decreased somewhat or a lot. When you see the orange one, it refers to an increment in corruption. Look at 2014. 8% thinking it had decreased. 83% thinking there was an increase. In 2017, there is a bit of a convergence. But you go to 2019 and you see the slump. 19% thinking it is decreasing, 53% thinking it is increasing. By 2022, only 6%, according to this survey, think it is going down. 77% of Ghanaians think it is on the upside. So who is corrupt? In that recent survey that we've been contemplating and which we're going to be speaking about shortly, the police service is the top 65% in terms of those who feel most or all of them are corrupt, and only 31% thinking some of them are corrupt. That is the mustard one. It is followed by the office of the presidency ignominiously, members of parliament, judges and magistrates, and of course, NGOs and the media are the least. In terms of perception of corruption among the police, judges, tax officials, you would realize that the trajectory hasn't changed much between 2008 and 2022, though it appears that when you look at the police, it is on an upward trajectory. When it comes to the perception of corruption at the presidency and among MPs, there too, you would see that there's been some sort of stability, but it is rising quite sharply in 2022. You would realize that the figures from 2008 all the way to around 2012 were stable. Then in 2014, an uptick right before the elections, 53%, a convergence there. And now we are looking at 55% and 54% in 2022. What did the survey also reveal about our pandemic-related corruption? Guess what? A lot of us felt, 44%, almost half the population felt that there was a lot of corruption in the pandemic era. Some, 28%, just a little, 11%. For those who felt there was no corruption, 6%, and 10% felt they did not know or did not have any reaction. We can also look at an evaluation of government's performance in fighting corruption. Those who feel government is performing fairly or very badly, just look at the trajectory. From 54% in 2012, now 85% in 2022. And from 43%, those who felt it was performing fairly or very well, 43% in 2012, now only 14% in 2022. That paints a picture. You look at the official impunity and equal treatment and self-censorship guide as well, and you see that officials who commit crimes go unpunished. Look at the statistic there. Often or always, look at the perception, 77%. And it's reflected through the rest. People treated unequally under the law. Competition between political parties leading to conflict. People having to be careful of what they say about politics. Look at the perception there, 67%. Ordinary people who break the law going unpunished. There you see the dynamic. So it is clear that when it comes to the power play, the ordinary person faces the brunt of it. Police officers, in terms of prevalence of corruption, like I stated, appear to be the most corrupt here, followed by all other officials, the Ghana Immigration Service, GRA, DVLA, prosecutors, judges, and more. But of course, we know that when it comes to the bit about the bribe sizes, they are right here. Police officers. And of course, we have Lands Commission officers at the top with 1,669, prosecutors, the GIS, among others. If you look at how acts of bribery are initiated, you would see that 6 out of 10 bribes are paid to public officials, and they are requested directly by those officials. The direct requests, over 59%, indirect requests, 15%, as a sign of appreciation, and our cultural elements also feed into this, over 14%, facilitating procedure, almost 5%, and it continues from there. But I want to end Ghana 4 with this, and it is very important. A 16th century painting, look at this carefully. This painting shows the skinning alive of a corrupt judge, Sisamnes, in the year 500 BC. Sisamnes was a corrupt royal judge at the time of Cambyses II in Persia. It was discovered that he took a bribe in court and passed an unfair judgment. As a consequence, the king ordered that he be arrested for his corruption and ordered that he be skinned alive. Before passing judgment, the king asked Sisamnes whom he wished to nominate as his successor. Sisamnes, in his greed, chose a son, Otanes. The king agreed and appointed Otanes to replace his father. He subsequently passed judgment and ordered that Sisamnes, his removed skin, should be used to upholster the seat on which the new judge would sit in court to remind him of the potential consequences of corruption. Otanes, in his deliberations, was forced to always remember that he was always sitting on the skin of his executed father. This helped to ensure fairness and equity in all his hearings, deliberations, and sentences. I feel, while I am not supporting barbarism or attacking police or public officials, I feel we should be angry enough and put in place measures that make corrupt public officials feel the real pinch, because what they do affects and destroys us all. I hope that someday we'll get to the point where public officials will realize just what responsibility we lay on their shoulders and be honest in their dealings. Ghana deserves that. I deserve that. You deserve that. My name is Benjamin Akakpo. These are my blunt thoughts shared with you this Friday morning. Raw, hot, undiluted. God bless Ghana.